All right, Mark. Mark, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Originally, I was born in Vermont, lived in the South Bronx, moved to Jersey City, and then also lived in the southern part of Jersey. So I'm an East Coast kid originally.
And how was your family? Tell me about mom and dad.
We grew up extremely poor. I had 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and we grew up in Richfield, New Jersey. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, immigrated from Ireland, didn't have much work experience and way too many children and not enough money to go around. My father was an accountant in Clark, New Jersey, and just never ever had enough bills to pay. I remember early on as a childhood when we moved out of the South Bronx into Richfield, New Jersey, we lived in a really old house that only my father could afford. And in that house, there was no heat, there was no hot water, and we had to scrummage around and live on food stamps and government subsidies just to be able to eat. In the winter, it was freezing in the state of New Jersey, and we had no windows in the house, and there was no heat. And I remember me and my brothers and my sister at the time would just huddle around the little kerosene heater in the living room. And I can remember to this day hearing the click, 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 and hopefully the heat would come on and we'd just huddle around to get through the night. And looking back on it, I remember I was just so afraid that one of my brothers, we'd wake up and somebody wouldn't be alive. We'd maybe shower once every couple weeks, boil the hot water on the stove and pour it over each other in the shower. And I realized at a young age, I just didn't want my brothers and my sister to go to bed hungry. I was the middle child and always trying to make everybody laugh and make everything okay when everything wasn't okay. And I started at a young age. I would deliver newspapers. I would sell candy bars, whatever I could to raise some money to feed my brother and sister. And we would walk and use our food stamps, and I remember how embarrassing it was, and I was just hoping that there was food on the table. And then my mom and my little brother Neil, he got sick with seizures, grand mal, petit mal seizures, and my mom had to go to a hospital and spent a long time in the hospital hoping that they would heal my brother. And I lost my mom, not forever, but for a period of time in my life. And I was a mama's boy. I just shadowed my mom. I idolized my mom. And one day I woke up and my mom wasn't there. Nobody explained to me what happened. And I was probably just in about 4th or 5th grade. And that's when I realized I started turning to the street. I started hanging around with older kids. There was a lot of violence and a lot of kids that were rough and bullied and picked on and beat us up. And it was terrible for me. And all I did was just start hustling. And if there wasn't enough food at home, I would go to the local store or the local delicatessen, and I learned how to steal at a young age. But I wasn't stealing to be mischief. I was just stealing because I was hungry. And I wanted to feed my brothers and my sister. So Richfield, New Jersey was really, really tough on me at a young age. And I didn't really know how to process all that. And one day I came home and my mom and my dad said, we're going to move to the southern part of New Jersey because we want to get a better life. And we moved to Toms River, New Jersey to try and discover a better life. And I was probably in about 7th grade. When I left Richfield, New Jersey, I was already into dereliction and troublemaking and running around on the streets and staying out too late and getting caught up with all the bad people. And it just seemed to spill over right into 7th grade. And in 7th grade, I was bullied really bad in school and I was picked on by kids. And I just met a couple older kids and started drinking. Started drinking at a young age, and when drugs were presented, whether it be mescaline or it be weed, I just started smoking weed and started using whatever I could to get out of my normal state of mind. I could look back on it and try and dissect it, but I know that I just experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of troubles. My mom wasn't always around. My father was always working. I know that my mom and my dad had a very rough relationship. They were always fighting. And so I couldn't find my way at a young age. And I just tried to stay away from it, but always found myself in trouble. And in 7th and 8th grade, I just really started using drugs. It was the only escape I had from the reality of I didn't want to be in my home. I didn't want to feel the pain. I always looked at everybody else and said, why do they have a good life and why am I so troubled? And I tried my hardest as a young kid just to get along, and I always just never fit in. And I remember smoking weed every day just to cope with going to school, cope with the craziness in my home. My older brother was really hard to deal with. He was beating up my brother. He'd beat up me. I remember witnessing him getting in a fight with my mom, a dragged down fight, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I look back in life today and I just see that a lot of that just spun into a lot of drug usage because I just wanted to escape. I didn't want to feel anymore. I know my parents did the best they could, but at the time it just seemed like my life was just troubled. And everywhere I went and everything that happened at a young age, and that's just too young of an age, and it's just like my childhood was gone. One day I came home and my mom and dad sprung on us that mom was pregnant with the 7th kid and we were going to be moving all the way to California. And I remember telling my mom and my dad, how could you have another kid? I don't understand. You can't even feed us. Why would you bring another kid into the world? And I was so angry at a young age. And I was probably in about 8th grade going into 9th grade, and I was already in trouble. My grades were slipping. And I think my parents just thought it was a good idea to move to California, to be with my dad's only 2 sisters. They were the only family we had on the East Coast. All the other family we had on the West Coast, all the other family we had was on the East Coast. All my cousins, aunts, and uncles, and my mother's family. And when I came to California, that's when I really started getting in trouble. And I remember I was in 9th grade. I met my cousin, which was my father's sister's. She was married to my Uncle Tony, and his daughter, Bella, knew some friends around the corner, and they were really into cocaine. And I tried cocaine, and I really liked the way it felt. It just removed all of my emotions and all of my feelings. And I was in probably about 9th grade, and I got into that culture that they had and the selling drugs and trying to make more money and hustle my way out of where I was at. And sure enough, I got caught in school, and they caught me selling drugs, selling cocaine, caught me with a scale. I was arrested for the first time. I was sent to juvenile hall. I remember going through the whole process of being booked in and how horrifying it was for me, embarrassing, being strip searched, having my mom and my aunt and my uncle, and here we are, we just came out to California and I was already in jail. And my mom got me out, and my mom didn't want to face it. She just didn't want to see it. And it wasn't her fault because she didn't know how to deal with it. And then I had to go through the whole process of school, and I was expelled from school, had to go to court. And I was expelled from Indio High School, and I was off for a whole year, independent studies, trying to work my way back into school. And I tried my hardest, and I went and I did good. I stayed away from the drugs, I stayed away from the people, and I said, that's it, I'm just not going to do this anymore. And so I was allowed back into Palm Desert High School. I had to go to another high school. And I started real good. I was doing great. I was a junior in high school, and I was doing great at a new school. I stayed away from the drugs. I got into sports and athletics, and I've always been in sports and athletics throughout my life, so I loved the game of football, and I just poured my life into football. But at home, I was still troubled. I remember at a young age, I'd be like listening at night, and I would hear my mom crying, and I couldn't understand what it was. And then I realized my father would just drink too much and get into a fight with my mom, and then I would get so upset about it that one day I tried to protect my mom. And I said, "You can't do this no more," to my mom. And I put her behind me, and I remember trying to be the protector of my mom. That's all I wanted to do, was keep my mom safe, and my dad wasn't having it. And at a young age, I think I was maybe 15 or a little after 15, my dad asked me to leave. He threw me out of the house. And I just got in my vehicle. I had a little Blazer. I had a broken leg at the time, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and that was the first time I was ever homeless. And I didn't know what to do. I just slept in the back of my Blazer and hoped nobody would find out at school. And because I was really good on the football team, I think my athletic director kind of knew what was going on, and he just didn't say anything. And the girlfriend I had at the time, her father found out about it, and he decided to reach out and help me. And he let me stay in one of the rooms in their house, as long as I had an agreement that I wouldn't mess with his daughter or do anything at the house. And Tom was a beautiful man. And Angie was my girlfriend at the time. And, I found a home. I just wanted to finish school. I didn't want to drop out, because I knew that the other way of life just wouldn't work. And so they took me into their home, and I was able to get my school under control. Nobody really questioned anything that was going on, and I was really doing good in sports. I really had a chance. I thought, man, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to change my life. I'm not going to be that person. I don't want to fail. I want to win in life. I don't want to fail anymore. And it looked like I was going to be able to play for San Diego State. And then they came to me, the athletic director came to me at the school and said, CIF is not going to let you play your senior year. And I said, why? If I don't play my senior year, I'm never going to get to college. They said, well, Mark, you got in trouble. You were arrested for selling drugs. And I said, I know, but I stopped. And they said, well, you went on independent studies and you went too many quarters over. So we're not going to let you play football anymore. And the only way to fight it is if your parents came to the CIF to plead your case. But I didn't want to let them know I wasn't living with my parents. And I was upset at my father, and I was upset at my mom, and I just didn't talk to them. So long story short, nobody ever showed up to talk to the state and to talk to CIF. So they rolled against me, and I couldn't play my senior year. So I gave up on my hopes. I went to work for Angie's father. He had an electrical company, and I went to work as an apprentice. Angie and I got married out of high school, and I just gave up on my dream of playing college football. And I figured it was just right to just go to work. Angie and I had a child together. I was young. I think we were just out of high school, maybe 19, 20 years old. Joshua was his name. And that was my first son. And then everything started falling apart and unraveling at work, because I wanted to leave working with Tom, start my own company, do a little advertising agency. I wanted to be an entrepreneur and get out on my own and do something myself. And that fell apart. I didn't have the experience and the knowledge, but I had the desire. I wanted to be something more in life. I always was striving to be something better. And through that when that business closed and we bankrupted it, I tried to get back and fix the relationship with my father-in-law. And Angie was just falling farther and farther away from me. And I realized in my life, I don't do good with loss, because it reminds me too much of my childhood. And I started drinking heavy again for the first time. And I went and got any job I could, and I was working at Domino's and trying to support my wife and my son. And somebody introduced me to cocaine again. And it wasn't on a massive scale because I don't think my dependency grew that much at that point. Then I came home and Angie told me, look, my mom and dad want to move to Colorado. If you want to see your son and you want to be around him, we need to move to Colorado. And I didn't want to lose my son because I always wanted to be the father to him that I never felt I had, and I wanted to do everything for him that I never had. So we moved all the way out to Colorado. Within 2 to 3 weeks when I got to Colorado, I had nothing but that, and I was living under their roof. I didn't have a job yet. And Angie woke me up and said, you know what? You have to leave. I said, what do you mean? She said, this isn't going to work anymore. And I kissed my son goodbye. I had nowhere to go. I came all the way out here to California. And the family I tried to create, it just went away. I lost it, and I lost my son. And she didn't want anything to do with me. I went out there a couple of times to find her, and she moved. I came back to California. I got introduced to cocaine. I went back to Domino's Pizza, and I got introduced to cocaine, and I just started using for the first time, like just using. Then I couldn't pay for it. Then I found out how to sell it. Then I started selling it and using more, and I gave up my job, and I got with a girlfriend, and then everything just fell apart in my life. It was the first time that I really became chemical dependent on cocaine because I could not deal with the fact that I lost my son. And I started smoking crack for the first time in my life, and I became so dependent. I was 160 pounds. 160 pounds, but I didn't want to live, and I couldn't deal with the pain of the loss. And so then I got introduced to methamphetamines, and I started using meth, and I started dealing, and I started doing all the criminal activity that comes along with it. And eventually it caught up to me like everything does. And I was arrested for sales and transportation, and they caught me driving in a car with a trunk full of weed. In the 90s, it was kind of different than it is today. In the 90s, you get caught with drugs and you were going to prison. You were going to prison. And there I sat in jail for the first real time. I was in county jail. And I never forget when the public defender came to me and said, the best I can do for you is 2 years in prison. And my world just stopped. Just stopped. And I couldn't believe that I was facing that. And I never knew growing up that that would be the end result. And I went to prison for the first time in 1992. The first time of many more to come. And I was scared. All these horrible stories you hear about prison, I was scared. I was a young man going to prison. And I went to prison right across from Chino State Prison, California Rehabilitation Center, Hotel California, for my first term. And I did 2 years, and the horrible stories were true. But when I went there, I was so scared. I was just trying to get through and not get caught up. And then back then, there was so much segregation and racism, and there was so much ugliness and riots on the yard, and it just scared me to death. And I paroled. Thank God my mom and dad allowed me to parole to their house. And I paroled with the best intentions. I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going back. It was a horrible experience. But what I didn't realize, how it just kind of shaved away the consequences a little for me, because now I had already been there. And I tried to get going. I got a great job selling cars. I thought I found my thing. And then the DMV sent me a letter in the mail and said, once again, can't let you work there. Why? because you were arrested. You were arrested transporting drugs, you can't do it. And then I found myself without a job, found another girlfriend. Then I started to say, okay, well, let me just get another business. Let me try and open a company. Got with a partner to help, do a little entrepreneur endeavor because I was convinced that I would never get a job. I did really good on parole. I never violated my parole. I always tested clean, but the cycle was already starting to unravel. Started a company, started a little vending route. I was doing great. And in my relationship, I started drinking again. And it always starts with a drink. I started drinking again. That relationship fell apart. The business fell apart. And here I was faced again with losing everything one more time. And as I look back in life, I see like every time I'm faced with that and I start losing everything again, here comes the drugs. Here comes the selling of the drugs. Here comes the subculture of living on the street, running around with gangsters and living the outlaw's life. And really, I'm just masking all my pain and just trying to get high because I was just hurting too much to face my life. And once I started getting high and I started using drugs, then nobody wanted anything to do with me. Started running around on the streets one more time and I got caught again for selling drugs. This time I was back in county jail. But what was funny about this time, it was the second time that I was going upstate, and sometimes you're sitting in county jail and you just feel a little relieved that it's over. I'm going to prison one more time. And they gave me another prison term. And I went to prison going, oh my God, here I go again. How did I get here? And it was the drug use. And I went to a little bit of a harder prison this time. Tehachapi State Prison. And I served 2 years. And I got out. And I paroled. And I don't get into all the horrible stories because we all know the horrible stories of prison and the gangs inside and doing everything you can just to stay alive and race riots and horrible things you see and witness. It just burns that into you, and then you just become institutionalized. And after I paroled and I got out on the street, I tried to do good. And then I just gave up easier and quicker this time. And I just said, what's the sense? And I was almost becoming institutionalized without even realizing it. And my second and third term came quick. And the third term again was transporting drugs and selling drugs and the dereliction of it and running it around. I got caught again and I was heading to prison for the third time. And I did a third time in a little bit of a harder prison. And I got out one more time and I paroled and I did good on parole. But in between those two prison terms, I never got off parole because I just gave up. And the third time I tried again. And then I was wanted one more time because I ran and I started using drugs and I started getting back with the old people and I started selling drugs and getting in trouble and running around and getting into crime, getting into stealing, dealing with, commercial robberies. And it seemed like every time I just became worse and worse and worse. And then I got my fourth term, which was 5 years. And I looked back and I thought, all those years, 12 years went by and I saw my mom twice. 2 Christmases and that's it. It was just constant, in and out of prison, in and out of prison, in and out of prison. And this last term was in Soledad State Prison, in a cell, in a very hard prison. And I don't even know, I look back and I think, how did I get through all that with all the riots and the violence? And it was 5 tiers high and you can just hear the pain and you could hear the screaming and you could see people being hurt in the riots and the fights and the stabbings and the killings and just all that horrible stuff that I witnessed. I remember one day I was on the yard. We're out there in the main yard and everybody's exercising and working out and doing their pull-ups and push-ups and everybody's segregated and we're using the outdoor restroom. And I'm sitting next to my friend Josh and I'm right here And there's another guy right here, and he says, "Look out, Mark." And a guy just comes along and just cuts the guy right in the throat. And just that guy ran, and he died right there in the yard. And I couldn't believe I'm right in the middle of this. I'm like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And am I going to be able to get home safely? I had no idea where I was going to parole. I had no idea. And my sister Carol just was a unicorn at that time and said, "Parole to my house." And when I got out, I paroled to the house, and I thought I would go to the higher desert, Victorville, Barstow area. Maybe a geographical change would do me good. And I went to college, I went to junior college, and I tried to finish the dream I originally had as a young man. And sure enough, right there at college, somebody offered me drugs, and I started using drugs again. And the whole spiral happened again. And I wound up moving back down to the desert to get with all the old friends and get in trouble one more time. And that's when I really started experiencing homelessness myself, because nobody wanted anything to do with me. My drug addiction had taken over. My alcoholism had taken over. In 2009, I found myself living underneath a bridge. Jackson Street Bridge. And I had a broken foot. I broke my hand trying to defend myself, getting in fights and all the stuff that goes on with the homeless community. And there was a little alcoves, little cutouts underneath the bridge, so you could just go up there and just sleep at night. And there I was, homeless. And I come from a good family. You know, my brothers and sisters are very successful. They all have good careers. And I had a troubled youth, but there's more trouble out there that people experience. And there was no understanding. I was homeless, under a bridge, and I had nowhere to go. Walking around the city streets of Indio, I was arrested one more time. And in jail, a guy wrote me a little note, and he said, "You have two problems, Mark. You need to end your homelessness, and you need to find your way, find God, do something, Mark. You have to change your way." I remember coming out of jail. It was hot. My foot was broken. I had no shoes, no socks. I looked at this little map. I looked to the left, and I saw the liquor store. I knew where the friends were. There was a little map to a rescue mission. And I said, man, I got to change. And that was the first time that I really, really felt that I needed to change, or I wouldn't live anymore. So I walked all the way down there, and I had to stop every time my foot was hurting. And I went to that rescue mission, and I experienced recovery for the first time. And I lived in that overnight shelter, and I didn't want to leave, no matter what. But all of my past caught up to me. I got a warrant. I was in a high-speed chase. I ran from the police. They had me on a warrant for a 459 commercial burglary, and I had to go to court and face criminal charges one more time. But instead of sending me to prison for the 5th time, the judge decided to give me a court-ordered program called drug court. And I really started to understand what recovery was. And I really believed I started believing in myself again. I started saying, okay, well, that's my life, but it doesn't have to be my tomorrow. You know, your past doesn't dictate your future. And I tried my hardest, and I found a home there at the rescue mission in Indio. And I was exposed to other people. And as I grew in my sobriety, and I had to go through all these court cases, and I had to fight my way out of it, and go to Prop 36 and DUI classes and drug court, and exposed to AA meetings and church. And I started realizing there's more to it. And then I remember helping one person that was homeless, and encouraging them. And somehow it made me feel a little bit better. I couldn't explain it. I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I shared a little bit of my story, and I was able to say, you know what, I've been there. And it encouraged him to stay. And I started making more friends, and then I realized, wait a minute here. That kind of makes me feel a little bit good or better about myself, that maybe all the things that I did in my life wasn't so horrible. And that was my first exposure to just helping another person. And they just found a way to keep me there. They gave me a part-time cook job. I just started cooking food for the homeless. So we'd make pizzas on the weekends, and it made me feel good. And then I worked at a gas station, and I graduated the program. And then I started working in the overnight shelter. And I went there to get help. I just needed a place to stay. I didn't realize that along the way and in my journey, I would find something to do. And I found employment there. And then we went from the small mission to a really big mission next door. And we had a real big building. We raised the money for it. And we moved from that old little mission. And I always stayed around the mission. They always found a reason for me to stay there. And I started working with the homeless population in 2009, 2010 was a lot different than it is today. And so we just started working with them. I graduated the program. I started really doing good. I found my girlfriend, Frances, who's my wife today. And I moved out successfully. And she came home one day and said, "I'm pregnant." And I couldn't believe it, because after I lost Joshua at a young age, I promised myself I would never have a kid again, because I never wanted to experience that loss. And so moving forward, I was clean and sober, and I was doing good, and I had year after year after year of sobriety. I went back to school to study it, to be able to help people more, and I loved what I did working. And I worked in the emergency shelter. I worked with guys in the program. Frances and I, we had our son, and one of the most hardest points of that whole pregnancy was finding out that my son had a birth defect, that he had gastrostesis, and all of his intestines were on the outside of his body. But we had our son. He made it through, little Mark Jr. And fast forwarding it to like 2015, 13, 14, and 15 was really good. We had our own place. Everything was going well. And then Frances and I just were not getting along, and we had problems, and we split up. And looking back, that was what was starting to trigger myself to unravel. And everything I saw went right out the door one more time. And Frances and I separated, and my son went with her. I didn't use at the time. I didn't relapse. I didn't start drinking again. I just kept working and trying to create a life that would be understandable, and then have another girlfriend, and just hopefully that just never worked out. And we just separated, and we went our own separate way. And I didn't realize it then, but my ego and my pride and my work was becoming my identity. And I was slipping in so many ways that my life was spiraling out of control one more time with the separation of my wife. I was slacking on my job. I was becoming bigger than myself, and I had no humility. And so roughly around 2015, my job came to an end. I went to work one day. They terminated my position and let me go all of a sudden. All of a sudden, they let me go. I'm at 8 years of sobriety. 8 years. I just bought a house. I bought a house because I believed that my family would come back together someday, and my kids would have a home to grow up in, and wouldn't have to go through what I went through as a child one more time. Losing the house, getting evicted, not having a place to call home. So I thought that I'm going to get this home, and that somehow my family's going to come back together. But the loss of my job, the loss of my identity, I was not processing things correctly. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped doing everything that kept me clean and sober for that entire 8 years. I just bought a new truck. Everything was going great. I drive to AM/PM to put gas in my car. I walk in the store I look to the right and there's the beer aisle. And I walk over, I open the door and I grab two 40-ounce beers. 8 years of sobriety. 8 years of sobriety. I sat in my car and I drank the first one. And I thought to myself, what did I just do? I just lost 8 years of sobriety. And I just said, the heck with it. And I drank the other one. And I went home and I just started drinking. All over again. Everything just went right out the window. Within 2 to 3 weeks, I was introduced to somebody around the corner that had methamphetamines. They said, hey, do you want some? And I knew the answer. I knew what to do. So I started smoking methamphetamines one more time. And all of the guilt, all of the shame, all the hiding from everybody, because I didn't want anybody to know that I slipped and I relapsed. I'm drinking and using. After spending all those years working with so many people and having my life together, now I was right back to where I was in 2009. But I wasn't able to stop. Once I took that drink, once I was drunk, once I was loaded on drugs, I could not stop. And in 2015, 2016, I relapsed. And it just became absolutely horrible. I went right back to all the old guys I used to traffic drugs for and sell drugs for. I couldn't get high anymore. And then I started using heroin because the guilt, the shame, the hard times I had, once I used heroin for the first time, everything went away. All my pain, everything went away. So now I'm on heroin, I'm on meth, I'm on alcohol, the expense of it all. I start selling drugs to pay for my habit. I ran out of all my money. I'm not making any payments on my house, on my car, on the water bill, nothing. I am hanging around horrible people, gang members, troublemakers, the underground, the whole subculture of selling drugs, using drugs, white-collared crimes, credit card fraud, selling stolen stuff, breaking into places, stealing, getting involved with that whole network of criminals where you're stealing stuff to get high and they're stealing your stuff to get high, dealing with all kinds of drugs. And the whole time, all I'm doing is every now and then I have a moment of clarity where I go, man, what am I doing? But I just can't stop. I just can't quit. I tried a couple times to quit on my own. A good friend of mine, Troy, who's my coach, who's a dear friend, was my coach in life when I was at my last couple years at the mission and working at the mission, knew that I relapsed, but I was too embarrassed to tell him. I didn't want to talk to him. I was so angry at him because I blamed him. I blamed the mission. I blamed everybody for my relapse. I remember one time he called me and I was so mad at him. I was yelling at the phone and I wasn't mad at him. I was mad at myself. I threw the phone out the window. And Troy has got tenacity and he just would not stop. He'd find my new phone number and he'd keep trying, but I didn't want to listen to him. Did not want to listen to Troy. I wasn't ready to stop drinking and using. Along with my drinking and using came, I got arrested in my front yard. They found drugs in my car. I was being watched by the police. I got in terrible accidents. I remember one time I was driving down the street at 45 miles an hour on Jefferson and I fell asleep. I hit the back of a truck, totaled the truck, ran from the police. They found me. I got arrested. That's twice. I bailed out. I'm selling drugs. I'm doing everything that is 100% wrong. Everything that I stood for went right out the window in order to get high. I tried getting sober. I couldn't get sober. I knew that everything was coming to a close. When I got loaded and I got drunk one more time, I remember telling Frances, my wife, I said, Frances, please don't come around me. Please don't come around me. I'm no good. I'm selling drugs. I'm a horrible person. And I don't want you or the kids to see me loaded. Because she never did. The whole time we were together, we were sober. She never saw a drunk and loaded Mark. Never. And I remember one day the knock came at the door. I'm like, who's there? And she said, it's Frances. And I said, you have to go away. And she said, no. But I was so full of shame because of all the horrible stuff I was into. I didn't want her to see me. I couldn't open the door. And she sat outside for 6 or 8 hours. And I told her, please just go away, Frances. Leave me alone. I'm no good. Just let me die. Let me just stay away from me. And she said, I'm not leaving. You're the man I love and you're the man I married. And that was like getting close to the end of my relapse because I was out there for like 14 months. And everything, I lost everything. I totaled every car. I've stolen. I've broken into places. I've sold drugs. I've hung around the most horrible people. And everything was coming to a close so fast. And I let her in. And she said, I don't get it. I said, I relapsed. I've been doing everything wrong and I don't know how to stop. And she tried with the best of her intentions to try, but I wasn't listening. And I would like to say, hey, everything stopped and I got clean and sober and everything came back together and everything was wonderful, warm and fuzzy, but it wasn't. I did not stop. I was chemically dependent at that time on heroin, meth, and alcohol, and I needed to get high every day to feel well and to be able to get through my day. And then all of the horrible people started coming around. I got in trouble again. I got arrested one more time. The police were closing in on me. I was in circles of drug traffickers, drug dealers, gang members. I was trying to go all the way to San Diego and move drugs just to be able to get caught up. In my mind, I was thinking, I just need to get caught up, get ahead, and then I'll go get help. I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to lose the last thing I have in this world. I just don't want to lose anything more. I'm tired of losing my whole life. That's all I ever felt like. I was just, everything I had, everything that ever mattered to me, I always lost, no matter what. I remember coming back all the way from San Diego and I was driving all the way down Highway 74. I fell asleep. I caught a nod. I woke up and I was driving right off of 74. And I drove right off of 74. Airbags deployed, hit me. I went off of 74. 2 rocks kept my vehicle from going all the way down. I kicked the door open. I climbed all the way back up. I didn't want to call the police. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I'm drunk. I'm loaded. I have drugs on me all the time, 24 hours a day. I hitchhiked all the way home, got home, and what did I do? I continued to get high. I was just out there. No matter what happened, all the horrible stuff, all the arrows pointing that I needed to stop drinking, I needed to stop using, and I still didn't. I still did not. And then I started getting into guns, and then I started having guns around the house. And then I figured, okay, well, let's just sell guns, let's sell drugs, let's do whatever we had to have money. Everything was just falling apart. I had so many horrible people around me. I just didn't even know what to do. So I just kept using and consuming drugs and getting farther and farther and farther behind. I had a wonderful idea. I look back and I think, what was I thinking at the time? Somebody else said, hey, let's just go rob this store over here, Verizon, and we can get some phones and we can get caught up and spend money. And then we hatched this plan. We cut through the wall and we went to rob a Verizon store. The alarms went off. We didn't get caught right then and there. But obviously they have cameras. They knew who did it. I'm driving, I'm leaving my house, I'm going down the street and the cops swarm on me. And they catch me with drugs and needles and hypodermic needles in my car and they arrest me one more time. This is coming to the back end of my relapse. It's still, I get out on bail, I go home. What's the first thing I do? I get high some more. I cannot stop using. I just keep using. I keep smashing down the pain. So I've spoken about Troy before, and I have a life coach that really believes in self-care, really believes in working out and taking care of yourself. And back then I didn't quite grasp the concept as I do today. And one time we were hiking on the bump and grind. And it's a big mountain that everybody calls a bump and grind, and we're hiking and we're coming down this mountain. And this is before I lost my job. Troy turned to me and he said, Mark, I don't know anything about this drug stuff. I don't know. I've never done it. I have no idea. I'm totally admit. I have no idea. But what if, Mark? I said, what if? What do you mean? What if you were ever to relapse? What should I do? I said, I'm never going to relapse. There's no way. My ego and pride was in the way. And sure enough, at the end, I get a call from Troy. I go, hello, this is Troy. I go, I don't know a Troy. Here, talk to this guy. He gives the phone back. He goes, Mark, you don't know me? And I said, hi, Troy. I know you. I'm just too full of shame and I'm embarrassed. And Troy started just talking to me a little bit. But then again, I just kept on using. I did not want to stop. I didn't want to stop. Francis started coming around more with the kids. I started trying to stop. I started to try to have my family back together with my stepdaughter, Ellie and Junior and Francis, and everything got bad. I just couldn't stop drinking. I was getting angry at her. We were fighting. We were having all kinds of problems. The house was extremely risky with a lot of dangerous people around. And one day Troy came. He came all the way from Oregon. And he said, I said, Troy, why are you here? Look at me. Look at what I've become. Look at my life is a ruin. I ruined everything. I threw everything away, Troy. He goes, I go, why are you here? And he said, Mark, do you remember when we were hiking that day? I said, yeah. He goes, I made you a promise. And I'm here to live up to my word. I promised you I would come down here. And he was there. And he took me out back. He said, you know what, Mark, this isn't you. This is a drug-induced, alcohol-ridden Mark, but it's not who you are. You have to stop. Go somewhere and find help. And I would like to see right then and there, everything stopped. And I got well, but I did not. And everything happened quickly within 2 weeks. And then one night, I was drinking and I was using. And it felt like my life was out of control. It felt like I didn't want to live anymore. And I had a loaded 45 on my bureau and I had a bottle of whiskey. And I was up for way too long. And I just wanted to end my life. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to deal with the guilt, the shame, the worry, the frustration. I'm 48 years old and I'm just a loser. I lost everything. And I remember I had my Bible, I had an Alcoholics Anonymous book, and I was trying to read. I was trying to change my life. I was trying to pull out of it. And I flipped through the pages of the Bible and my son's picture came out. And I thought, I can't do this. I can't leave my son alone. I can't. I won't leave him without a father. And I would like to say everything ended right there for me. And all I could say was, God help me. And I finally fell asleep. And when I woke up, I got all that stuff out of the house. Troy came back around and said, man, we need to help you, Mark. You need to change. I said, but I lost everything. I lost my why does it matter, Troy? He said, because you're better than this. And then everything started rolling fast. And he said, you go anywhere, Mark. You go anywhere and you can get into any detox. You tell them to call me and I'll pay the bill. You got to change, Mark. And then Troy worked with a friend of mine from the county that helped me get into a detox. And Troy said, Mark, on this day at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to be in your driveway. And you need to be there. And you need to get in my car at 10. And we're going to go get you help. And if you're not there, we're done. Don't call me and I'm not going to call you again. And unfortunately, there was a holiday. It was a holiday. So I had to wait like 3 or 4 more days because the treatment center didn't have an available bed. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. And I kept using. I kept getting high. And I remember the day before, the night before, as crazy as my mind was, I didn't even know what day it was. And the night before, I went to score some drugs, and on the way home, we got chased. The police went to pull us over, and I thought to myself, don't pull the car over. I have to go to treatment in the morning. Don't pull over. And we ran. And we ran from the police. And we got caught in the sand dunes. And I jumped out, and I just started running. I just started running and running and running and running. And I was so scared, and I knew it was getting late at night, and I had to get home. I walked through the desert. I mean, all the way through the desert. Hitchhiked rides, walked home. I got home at like maybe 7 in the morning, and Francis was there, and I said, Francis, please, don't let me fall asleep because I won't wake up for Troy. And sure enough, 10 o'clock came, and I don't know what it was. Like, I just knew that if I did not get help, I would never live. I would never live. I couldn't get through it anymore. I had all these court cases. I had the police at both sides of my block watching every move I made. It was horrible. I'd never, ever experienced so much pain in my life. I fell asleep, but I woke up in time. But I was still sick as a dog off the drugs. I was sick. And I remember getting high, and I was so embarrassed to tell Troy. And I just got as high as I could just to get through the day. And I remember looking at Francis, and the kids were there, and I just said, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything. But I'm going to make this right. Somehow I'm going to make this right. And I just threw clothes, grabbed my bag. And when I walked out of my house, I knew right there I would never see my home again, and I would lose everything, but I didn't care because I didn't want to lose my life. I was done. And I got in that car with Troy, and we went over to a county building, and they had to do all the assessments, and I couldn't even think. I was so clouded with all the detox and the horrible feelings I had, and everything I was going through was just terrible. They were asking me questions. I didn't even understand what they were saying to me. And they just hurried me up and they said, go to the ranch. Go to detox, Mark. And I got in the car, and I remember I couldn't even peel an orange that he gave me to eat. I was so distorted. And that's where the journey of my recovery began. I decided right then I needed to live. I didn't want to die. And Troy was that person that just kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. And I listened. I heard that voice inside of me that said, man, you got to get help, Mark. You got to stop what you're doing. And I went to detox. And again, I'd like to say like, oh, everything was wonderful, but it wasn't. It was a horrible detox. It was 10 days. And I was shaking and I was hurting, and I just wouldn't accept anything. I wouldn't accept no drugs. I said I didn't come here to get on off. I came here to get off of drugs, not on different drugs. So I did everything cold turkey. And then you wake up the next morning, or the second or the third morning, and you start facing reality. all the pain of everything you did, the guilt, the shame, the loss, everything I did came to light. And I was like, I could not even believe all the horrible stuff I did. Could not even believe it. My hand, I hurt my hand right here with a machete, because on one of when I was high, I thought, oh, well, this is great. Let's go chop down some weed plants and let's make some money. I slipped and I fell and I cut my finger, almost cut my fingers off. So my hand was killing me and I was hurting and I was coming off all the drugs. And I remember all the hallucinations. I was sweating and I couldn't eat. I was taking hot showers back and forth to the nurse. But when the second, the third, and the fourth day came, I started just taking a deep breath. And that's where my recovery started again. And that was on January 15th, 2018. That was my first day sober again after 14 months of my relapse. 14 months. And the most difficult thing for me was I didn't know where my wife and kids were. Because Troy, he didn't tell me because the kids were unsafe at the house and Francis was unsafe. And so I didn't know for the first 30 days where my children were. But I just knew that I had to stay there, man. I had to get back into recovery. And what's funny is, like, I knew right then and there, I said in the beginning, I said, I'm never going to go back. I'm never going to help people again. I'm done. 8 years I served people and I counseled, and I just was so mad at myself. I felt like such a failure. I felt like I just let everybody down and I was just done. And as that journey of recovery began, and I started helping people again, I felt that need, like I felt that desire to help people. And all the other things came into play. My house was being foreclosed on and we needed to sell it. I had all kinds of debt. The person that I hit when I fell asleep in the car was suing me. And then I had all my court issues. I had 3 court cases. And it wasn't looking good because I have a lifelong of prison. I have a 14-page rap sheet. I have like 15, 16 felonies. There's no way that I'm going to get any mercy in the courts. But I knew that I had to go to court. And I remember going to court for the first time. And the judge looked down at me. And the DA looked over and he said, "Is that Mark McGowan?" And they said, "Yes." And I remember what they said. "What happened to him?" Because I used to go to court and people, they'd be released to my custody because they knew we were doing good work to help people. So I'm at the ranch and I'm working through it and I'm getting on my 30th day. Then they have a center go up there and test, and then I find out I have hepatitis C from dirty needles, exchanging needles. I contracted hepatitis C, so I had to go through hepatitis C liver treatment. I got on through my treatment phase, moved to a sober living house. Then I realized I had to have reconstructive surgery on my hand from the accident I had. And I was in that rehab, and I was in the sober living, and things were starting to come back together. But there's one story that I forgot to mention was right at 30 days. 30 days you're allowed to have visits. And I get called up to the main office. And I still don't know where my kids are. I still don't know where my wife is. And in walks Francis. And there's my son. And he just dropped this little tablet and ran over and hugged me. And that just made it all better. And Ellie was there in Junior, and we had a visit. And for the first time, I realized I was clean and sober again. And what was most important in life is your family, is my wife and kids. And she never left. She just hung with me and stayed with me through the whole time. She never left. And we went through a lot of processes there at the rehab, and then we got into a family program so we can get our children the help they needed. As I moved through and I phased up, and I'm still going to court, and I'm kind of fast forwarding through it, and I'm moving into another sober living house called the Noah House, where I'm living, and it's sponsored by my old place, the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission. And that's where Francis went to live while I was in treatment because they had no choice. And it was hard for me because it was where I used to work to know that my family had to go there for protection and safety. And all of this was happening sometimes very slowly and sometimes very quickly. And this was all in my first year of recovery. My first 6 months of recovery was nothing but court appointments and surgeries and treatment and rehabilitation. And I just kept on saying, no matter what, I'm not going to leave. No matter what, I'm not going back. And Troy was in my life more, and he was working on more things, and I was getting back into self-care, and I was starting to become alive again. And that happens over time because you lose your way, you lose your soul, you lose who you are, and that's what drugs and alcohol do to people. And it just gets you into this small subculture of a world that when you come out of it, it takes time. It takes time for you to come back around, and you need to have a lot of support around you. And I'm just grateful for Troy because I wanted to say this before, is that when you're working with somebody like Troy, I must have said no to Troy 12 times. But did that stop him? No, and he never gave up. I always tell people, don't give up on somebody. You never want to give up hope. You never want to stop calling somebody, because you never know when this one time you meet with that person and you may say the right thing and they might be going through the right experience and it just connects and they go, you know what, I want to change. And they do change. And sometimes we do change and sometimes we don't. But my story is just about change at the right time. But Troy never ever gave up on me. And that's one thing I want to let people know is don't give up on people that you're working with, because nobody ever knows what it's going to take or how is it going to take it. Every individual is different. But if you have a love for somebody or a care for another human being, always just keep trying. Don't ever give up.
Hi, friends. It's me again. Still getting close to Christmas time. I was sitting up and I was thinking about, how much money I spent in my crack addiction. Now, to me as a normal person, it didn't really seem like that much money. But when I sat down, I got to think about the money I didn't have for my daughter for Christmas. And I don't have a car. I want to get a motorcycle, and I just fucked off, money. But anyway, I started out. I had a job. The first job I got a job at the probation department in Torrance, California. I got a job at the probation department. And I wasn't really used to getting high that much. And I hated that job because I had to sit behind a desk and do the work and shit. And all these pretty white women running out with their titties all hanging out. I'm looking at titties when I'm doing the work. I couldn't hit the computer. So my friend came over my house one day. He had a tie joint. Hey, man, let's smoke some weed before you go to work. No, man, I can't smoke no weed. I'll go to work, man. I had smoked some weed before I went to work, and there's this white girl named Linda, man. And they had me stacking some paperwork in the back because I couldn't do the hand don't work. And she come back there and she had this little skirt on, I'm looking at her and shit. I said, hey, Linda, you want to take a hit? You want to smoke some joint? Yeah. So anyway, we went out and smoked a joint. Well, she had some rock. She wanted to put some rock in the joint. We got at lunchtime. So when she put the rock in the joint, very first time I hit that shit, I spent $200 fucking dollars. I'm not fucking shitting y'all. I spent $200 fucking dollars. And I said, what the fuck? Now, back then I had just a little bit of control. I would say I had a little bit of control because every time I've always had a job. I could get a job because I felt like, my dad told me if you don't have a job, you're not a man and all this kind of shit. But back before I knew I'm an addict now. But before I knew I was a compulsive addict, I didn't know all of these things. But I know when I got paid, I didn't like going to the bank. Fuck that shit. Take my money and go to the bank, get these motherfuckers my money. I'll put it in my pocket. I'll be all right. I started pulling out for one day I had $300 in my pocket. A friend of mine wanted to go over this girl's house. He wanted to sit down and, you know, and do whatever they're doing. And they had some of this rock shit, whatever. Back in the 80s, it was real rock. It wasn't that bullshit. It was real cocaine. I mean, when you took your head off that shit, you would want to go find you some panties to get in. I mean, I don't give a damn what kind of panties. It was boy panty, girl panty. You just want to get some panties, goddamn. So anyway, I keep it real. So anyway, boy panties, girl panties, pull it out. Let's do it. Anyway, so I had like 250. I remember I got a ticket. I had a ticket to pay. I said, I got to pay. I had to go to Torrance, pay this goddamn ticket. I was down there in Torrance fucking around them white girls. Anyway, I had to go pay the ticket. And the girl said, "Gonna take a hit?" I said, "Well, I got $250. Bam. I was put that, if you took your head off the motherfucking cocaine, she gave me your head and all that shit. I said, damn, that was okay. But I fucked off my $250. Now I told myself, never, ever, ever again. Oh my God, no way, no way. Would I ever do that again? No, not me, not me. I started working for Garrett Airways Church about 2 weeks later. I got a job through a little temporary agency I used to work for. So I got a job at Garrett. They wanted me to work in the store. They had all these different parts they wanted me to keep up with, which I was good because I've always been good with numbers. With spelling, I can't spell. I can't even spell my own damn name. But numbers, I've always been kind of good with numbers. And they had me up in there in Garrett Airways Church. And it's just the devil, man. And I was walking away. I had a little car, a sports car. And I was walking out of the job one day. This girl says, "Hey, man, I see you coming from Compton. Do you live in?" "Yeah, I live in Compton." "Yeah, well, can you give me a ride home?" "Oh, man, I turned Marlise or whatever her name. She had these big fucking thighs. She would always wear these short pants. Now, I had a girlfriend at the time. I'll tell her about my girlfriend. Now, let me go back. Now, as you go, now, me and Robin had got a bank account together. Oh. We started loading the bank account up together. The lady was just as sweet, you know, and I was really putting the money in the bank. And one day I decided to take a hit. I took a hit off that cocaine. Next thing you know, I'm at the Pussycat Theater looking at porno movies, getting my dick sucked by whoever was sucking the motherfucker. They smoking my dick and I was smoking crack. And they said, "Hey man, we put you out every time you come in here, you do that shit." They put me out the Pussycat Theater for smoking crack. Yeah, I would do that every Saturday. I'll give me $50 for the crack. Well, anyway, I was with this girl. We had $5,000 in the bank. In 2 weeks, I smoked up $5,000. Oh my God, I don't feel good about that. Anyway, she came to me, she said, "Baby," she said, I went to the bank and my money was kind of short. You need to tell me where my fucking money went. I came up with this great idea. I lost a card the other day and I couldn't remember the number, so I stapled the 4-digit on the back. They must have got the money out the bank. She kind of believed me, but she didn't believe me. That was $5,000. I got a job at Northrop Electronics with my bad ass. Don't know how they put me in the tool crib. I don't know nothing about no goddamn tools. They put me in the tool crib. I knew this guy who knew my dad who got me in the job. And I was supposed to work, but anyway, I was making like $1,000 a week. Now I was staying with her. We were staying in Coast. I was staying with her. But she liked that dick. I mean, I could dick. I would treat like that dick. I was dicking her real good. You know, she would treat. In a minute, my mother told me when I was a little boy. She said, "Boy," she said, "when you give a woman some good dick, she can't even think." And I never ever forgot that. So I knew if I could put my feet. Y'all know my mother's story. I'm a dicker. I'm dicking this lady, man, and she can't see nothing. So one day, when I got paid on Friday, we were supposed to go out to this club. She wanted to go out to this club, and I had about $100. I had $1,200 in my pocket, and I had bought like $50 for the crack. And I wanted her to going out to the club, just going out to the club. She comes over, she doubles back. I done took a hit. I got my porno on. I got my thing in my hand. I'm watching my porno. She busts in the door. "That's why your dick don't get hard. You're doing that shit." Could you imagine? I'm so embarrassed. I'm sitting there, pipe still smoking. Shit. This is a pipe still smoking. I ain't doing nothing. Then she goes, this fun. She lays down on the couch. She opens her legs. She's like, "Come on, baby, give me some." I gotta say it. When I ain't doing that shit, I got the biggest. But if I take a hit off that shit, I need to tweet. I can't find that. I don't know where it go up. Where? I can't find that motherfucker. It's so little. And she knew. But anyway, we put some more money in the bank, another $5,000 in the bank, and I fucked it off. And she told her mother. Oh my God, I feel so bad. Oh, I feel so bad. Her poor mother. Mother said, "You motherfucker. You messed up my daughter's money. You need to stay with my daughter before I put this 45 in your mouth and blow your goddamn head off." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." I fucked that up. I had the most beautiful 260Z sports car because I built that motherfucker. I like to tell you I know I could have got 25, 30 grand for that car. I like to tell you I got that kind of money. I sold that motherfucker for a $40 rock. I could hear the cars zooming around the neighborhood, and I ain't got no car. I done ran out of dope. I had to call my sister to come get me. Where's your car? Luckily, that time I got it back because the person I was staying with knew the guy he called the police and the sheriff made him give me my car back. My ass went back to the same neighborhood. He wasn't there. Somebody else was there. No, that was the time. That's the time I got for this is the last time I saw the car for a $40 rock, $40 with the cocaine, like a $35,000 car, and I could hear him doing around the hood. I never saw that car again. What other car? I had a Buick Somerset Regal. I let a guy use it. I was living in Texas. I could let a guy use it for a $20 rock. Next thing I know, I see him at the gas station. The police pulling the seats out the car, everything out the car. I had about a $20,000 car. Bam, that's gone. So $35,000, $20,000, plus the two $5,000, we add them up. Norfolk. If I worked for Norfolk, I was making, let's say I was making $900 fucking dollars a week, and I was smoking up 700 of that shit. I couldn't see that. For some reason, thanks to the grace of God, I could maintain. For some reason, I could. They call me a function. I could function. You know, I could kind of keep a car and do some things. But I always had for some reason, I always had a nice woman with a good job, a nice lady, because I was dicking. I know how to dick, and I know how to, excuse my expression on the YouTube, I know how to suck a motherfucking pussy. So I learned at a young age, so that's what I was doing. Some women do it. I learned how to do it like a man. A gigolo. My grandmother say, "You fucking gigolo." I was gigolo with that. Anyway, I'm gonna talk about the money I stole. Oh my God. My grandmother, I went in her purse. I took the money. I went to him. My grandmother was the best thing. Was the best thing I ever had. The best grandma. And I told her, I said, "Grandma, I got a drug problem. I'm so sorry for taking your money. I'm so sorry." And she said, "I love you, man. I ain't worried about that money. I'm just glad you told me the truth." I fucked up for a couple $100, man. I sold two $1,500 bass guitars. This right here, I never told nobody. Somebody in my family, I just got engaged. $10,000 ring. I got high enough sold for $50 rock. That's $24,000. Oh, that hurt. Oh, that hurt. But anyway, take yourself it. That one hurt. God forgive me. God forgive me. Anyway, I was thinking about all the cigarettes I bought. They called me Cisco. I drank fucking Cisco wine by the fifth like it was fucking Kool-Aid. Wait, let me back up. I started driving a truck. And the poor people would just give me money. If I didn't have no money, I didn't have nowhere to stay. I lived in a fucking truck. Hey man, I need $200. Look, I have been all over this fucking country buying crack. They should have had me for, if they had me for, I could have been millionaire. If they'd had me for a tester, just the police would say, hey, let's have you test. I know where all the dope spots is in all the major cities in the whole fucking United States. And they got the universal language. They see me pull up in the truck, just like the nigga, this is what they do. And do that, and they already know it. I'm pulling up, get your ass in the truck, I'm spinning. Okay. I worked for Best Pack Warehouse. I worked for Best Pack Warehouse for 4 years. I made $600 a week. I had nowhere to stay. Every fucking week I smoked the whole fucking. So let's do the math. We do the math. But for 3 years, $600 a week. 3 years straight, I fucked up $600. Not counting the money I was borrowing for the cigarettes and the wine and the hookers. Oh my God. I fucked around one time and went out to that fucking bunny ranch thing they had at the goddamn, I got an income tax check. Income tax check, I had $7,000. I went to the bunny ranch over there. I went and got me three big old titty white girls. Three big old titty white girls. And the white girls was smoking crack like I was. And let me tell you something, I like to say I had more fun. I didn't get no pussy. I just smoked crack. But the guy was outside the door. He didn't know nobody. He smoked all outside the door. Just let me smoke like I want to smoke. And I got so high one night, I couldn't survive. And I called my sister. I said, baby, I need to come home. I can't take this shit. She called, get him home. They gave me money to get on the bus. I smoked that up. Another $200. Bam, another $200. Gone like a motherfucker. Up in motherfucking smoke. No wonder I ain't lost my motherfucking mind. Oh my God. So when I first got on SSI, they gave me a check for $3,700 motherfucking dollars. This is what I said. I'm gonna take a couple of hundred, I'm gonna sit it to the side. I'm gonna my mama hold this for me. Jeannie must hold that for me. Mother sister hold that for me. I'm not gonna come get it. And goddamn me, in 2 weeks, I was knocking on everybody's door at 3 o'clock in the motherfucking morning. Give me my motherfucking money. Give me my motherfucking. I went through that money in 3 fucking weeks. Now that's not talking about the alcohol, the hookers, and the cigarettes that went with that shit. Oh my God! So we already talking about these 250,000. We already talking about 250,000. Now I got a job going cross country. That year I made 48 grand. And I smoked up, I know, 40 of it. I know I did. I know I fucked up for it. I know I did. And I would get my money and I'd pull up in the truck stop and the little girl would get on the mic. That shit, and the devil would just send them young, you know, I'm already a pervert. He's sending them young girls, that's I was in Oklahoma City, the girl told me they was 6. I said, baby, you 16, you too young. That motherfucker, that white girl, he pulled out there knocking over there. I saw that hair and that thing. I said, well, how much money you need? I mean, we in it. There we go again. I fucked off another $600. I was, God, I fucked off a lot of money. God, I fucked off a lot of money. I got to the point, I'm not interested in, I used to like, cause I like Porsches, man. I know every model, every engine, the tires are going on. I'm a Porsche fanatic. And I fucked off enough to get 3 motherfucking Porsches, you know? I have a baby that's 18 years old. And pretty much I ain't done shit for her. And I give her, every time I see her, I give her $100, which is once a year, once every 2 years. And I figure that's gonna be okay. That shit ain't okay. It don't feel okay. It's not okay. And I tell myself, but see, now I used to get Social Security. Now I don't get no Social Security no more. So now I got to come up with the money to pay the rent. And most of the time I make it, but I always gotta lean on my brothers. He's been coming through. I gotta lean. You know, but I think about, I've been there. When I first became homeless this time, for 3 years straight, do the math, they gave me $960-something a month. I smoked up every fucking, and you can handle what it stay. I would get my check, I'd get a room, I'd give me a couple of white girls. We smoke up all the motherfucking money. I did it week after week after week after week, and I kept telling myself, this week gonna be different. Now wait a minute, now this week I'm just gonna get 120. This week I'm just gonna get one dime. This week I'm just gonna get one little hit, and I'm not gonna never do that. I'm not gonna do that no more. And I ended up smoking the whole goddamn. I said, you know what? Let me tell you about telephones. Oh my God. Metro P says the girl down at the place, when she see me, she's so happy, he gonna buy another phone. I bought a phone for 2 years. Every fucking month I pay $100 to get the goddamn phone to and get $100 for the phone. Everything. And the next month I done sold the goddamn phone and I gotta get another phone. When she see me coming, Mr. Banks, I got one for new. Exactly. I got one. I knew you was coming. I got one for you. Oh my God, the people know me by name. I'm so embarrassed. I'm looking around. The fucking people are coming, the motherfucker. But I kept telling myself, now next month you don't give me, they don't give me that. They told me to talk me, and they talked me into spending $300 on it. I said, well, I spend $300 on the Galaxy X5, whatever. I get the $300 Galaxy. And I know I done spent my money, but goddamn me, before the night's over, the nigga bought the 50 to 300, and he gave me a $50 ride for a $300 Galaxy. That $300 Galaxy, that motherfucker was gone. I said, I can't win for losing with this shit. But I tell you what, I ain't gonna do it no fucking more. Goddamn me, next month before the, but I got to, when the day come on the first, goddamn the money come on at 11 o'clock, I'm at the liquor store. That dude live at the liquor store. He got the bottle of brandy on the table because he know what I want. It's already up there. He know he gonna make the motherfucker save some money in the first tail. Cause this nigga, he gonna pull $200 out the first tail. He gonna spend some money. Dope man waiting for me on the corner around the liquor store. I'm going there, the little white girl, she knows, she like just suck on my dick. She waiting on me. They all waiting on me. This month, I'm just gonna spend just $100. I'm gonna give me good. Now I'm gonna show y'all this time. I'm just gonna spend $100. That's it. I mean, y'all not gonna guess this right. I'm just gonna, before you know it, the 2 days later, the whole goddamn 900 gone. I did week after week after week after week after week, and then I stopped to the next week, and I did a week after week after week after week. But the thing is, I'm laughing about it now because I'm laughing about it now because it's insane, but that's addiction, man. This motherfucking crack. And let me tell you the funny thing about the motherfucker. When you hit the motherfucker, man, when you hit that motherfucking pipe, let me tell you something, y'all. For y'all that never did it, don't ever fuck with that motherfucking pipe. Cause that motherfucking pipe feel better than busting a nut in a 16-year-old girl. I'm telling you that shit. But after that one, you don't get nothing. And only you chasing. And you can't get it. And I take a hit, and here come the rats. I'm not scared of men. I'm terrified of rats. I don't know why. I take a hit, I get pregnant. Here come the rats. I'm looking for the rats. One time, me and a friend of mine were smoking crack, and she had this closet was into the side, and I don't know what made that little motherfucker come around the corner. He looked at me like, yeah, motherfucker, I know you're scared of me. Man, I jumped up on top of that goddamn toilet. If that woman, I never heard a woman, she said, you fucking pussy, you scared of a fucking man. I was so scared of this fucking rat, dude. My fucking leg, I couldn't move. I mean, that scared the shit out of me. Oh my God. But now where I'm standing now, it keep me from running tonight because I'm paranoid. I ain't going to get no trouble. When you walk down the streets over here, you see men them goddamn rats get running. I ain't going to. How did I get on? Anyway, I just love to sit here and talk. So we licked the money I spent. I mean, dude, I spent. God. I know I could have had a house. I could have had a black 911, and I could have had a black GT. I want a GT3 now. I want a black GT3 with custom rims on it. I wanted it sitting in my damn garage with a custom tail and the roll bar and all that shit. I could have paid cash for, what are they, $120,000. I could have paid cash for one of them motherfuckers, and could have paid cash for a house. I love Santa Monica. I love Santa Monica, and I like Redondo Beach and Santa Monica, or Malibu. I could get bought a house over there and have me some little big leg white girl. We could have been kicking back, could have been going to church, and could have bought a little Mercedes. I like the commercial when the guy, he says the lady buys 2 watches, and he goes on and buy 2 trucks. He says, I got you a truck and me a truck. And I sit there, I cry. I'm like, damn, man, I wish I could do that. Man, I wish I could do that. Be a lady, and just give her everything, And I met this bonehead. I met this girl. She's hot, dude. Let me tell y'all, she's hot. She's blacker than that motherfucker. She's blacker than a black police. You ever seen a black police truck? She's blacker than a police truck, but she fine. I mean, she used to tumble. That motherfucker got laid, and the way she walked. So I met her. I take her to the house. She wanted to sit and watch scary movies all goddamn day. Oh, this and there. So anyway, I want to hit. I take her over there. Let me tell you how I fucked that off. I bought a motherfucking fifth of liquor. Oh my God. Took her to the beach. I accused her looking at some girl, and then we come home. She finds my crack pipe sitting on the counter with a rock. She said, oh my God, did you do that? Oh no, you people, I would have never came over. You do that? The shame, the remorse, and the guilt is undescribable. I feel this fucking low. She said, you a nice guy, man, but you do that, I don't want to be. I know what y'all do when y'all get high on that shit. You'll fuck anything. I was so hurt. I finally met a nice girl. Anyway, that's what happened. So all in all, here comes Christmas time. I didn't have 50 cents in my goddamn pocket to buy cigarettes one. I said, well, I was glad because we couldn't visit nobody on Thanksgiving because I didn't have $100 to give my family. I didn't have it. Oh my God. So that's for him. And I like to come because I like the people that come to me. I know my friends are there. What's up, y'all? I know my friends are there because they always see me. I just met I never get you guys' name. What's up, dude? What's up, girl? I know you're there. I mean, come say hi to me when you see me. I got more stories, but I appreciate you guys listening to me because it gives me a chance to get off of this shit. And I hope the dude to get behind the camera ain't gonna tell nobody, because I sure hope nobody don't know. If y'all hear me talk about, let me tell you what I appreciate about you guys. You guys never accuse me, you never down me, you never talk about, you guys always give me praise because I know I'm saying things that you guys want to hear because you guys do the same thing. Y'all, I'm not the only one, motherfuckers. I know y'all out there. I see you out there saying,
except a lot of people don't like you.
He's telling my story.
A lot of people.
I'm telling your story, homie. Anyway.
A lot of people come down on you because you had that relationship with a young girl.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. Everybody got skeletons in their closet. Ain't nobody in this world ain't never did nothing. It's a whole lot of shit, other shit I ain't did. I'm finna, what me and my buddy had me there, I'm finna tell it all to y'all. Because you guys, you can process that shit however you want to, but me, it showed me, I'm getting off that shit, and it's doing me some good. So
are these talks helping you?
So fuck y'all. No, y'all my friend. No, so fuck y'all. No.
Are these talks helping you?
Oh, they're helping me tremendously. Because they have me on psych meds, and I had one psych med had to take 3 times a day. And I told I don't take that shit anymore because I needed to tell the truth. They told me one time, you can't poke holes in the truth. God loves the truth. God don't love a lie. God loves the truth. You got to tell the truth. People, if you want to get some therapy, tell on yourself. That's the best way. Therapy, it ain't don't worry about what nobody thinking, what nobody gonna say. Tell on yourself.